I called her up and I said, just like this, you better shut your blanking mouth about me. I'm telling you, you better shut your effing mouth. As soon as they heard that, a lot of cabals here in Hollywood, that's all they needed to hear. It's like, okay, destroy. She must be destroyed.
She's not holding back. She's naming names, pointing fingers, and laying out exactly how she believes this dark network operates behind closed doors. Back in 1988, Roseanne rewrote the playbook. Her show put a real working-class family on screen, something television had never actually done before. She fought her head writer Matt Williams tooth and nail for full credit as the true creator of her own life story. That made her dangerous, not just to a network, but to the people pulling strings far above it. They couldn't silence her without every fan noticing exactly what was happening.
Well, she is the evil side. And, there's an evil side and a good side, and that's the war. And, they just tried to, and I felt like they killed my character and my character, but I thought they were sending a message.
So they found another way. And as Roseanne herself has said, there's nothing any of them could ever do to make up for what they put her through. Ellen DeGeneres took a completely different road. In 1997, her sitcom gave us one of the most talked about moments in television history, when her character came out on screen in a two-part special. It mattered deeply to a lot of people seeing themselves represented for the very first time. But here's where the story gets complicated. Ellen hit a rough patch shortly after, and her career stalled. Then something interesting happened. Hollywood's most powerful players reached back in and pulled her straight to the top again. Why? Because unlike Roseanne, Ellen learned how to play the game. She followed the rules of the elite, stayed in their good graces, and never once stepped out of line.
So tell me about your birthday party. Am I invited?
Yes. Yes, you're definitely invited. I invite you to all my parties. You just haven't seemed to show up.
Is it on the East Coast?
That was about a couple years ago when I was doing this reality show that I got myself talked into doing.
Right.
One thing I learned from doing that show, fake reality sucks too.
Two women, two very different outcomes. And the question worth asking is, what exactly does playing by those rules require? Ellen got something very different in return. A massively funded daytime talk show that ran for nearly 20 years. She became the smiling face of Hollywood, dancing with guests, handing out prizes, sitting across from A-listers. On the surface, it looked like pure warmth. But that Be Kind brand wasn't an accident. It was a carefully built cover story, designed to protect her real function inside an elite network.
Hollywood ain't shit but pedos and people under pedo control with their handlers.
While Roseanne fought the machine and tried to drag the truth into the light, Ellen served that same machine and helped keep the reality of many A-list celebrities hidden. That's the fundamental difference between them. One saw the truth and refused to stay quiet. The other saw it and chose to become part of the system that buried it. That's the key to understanding how Epstein and his circle managed their public-facing assets. Some people were threats, others were useful. Ellen was useful, Roseanne was a threat. And that is exactly why their stories ended so differently.
After they kicked me off TV and said I was a threat to America and everything.
They called you a threat to America?
Well, something like that. A threat to Hollywood.
Everything's a threat to Hollywood right now. Hollywood seems to be crumbling at the foundations.
Isn't it great?
To understand Ellen's connection to that network, you have to understand Epstein himself. The mainstream press tried to frame him as a lone bad actor, but the reality is far darker. He was a 66-year-old hedge fund manager with massive properties in Florida, New York, and a private island. Officially, he was accused of paying girls hundreds of dollars for massages and then mistreating them between 2002 and 2005. But here's what rarely gets said out loud. He wasn't just an offender acting alone. He was running a system built to give powerful people leverage over each other.
Epstein he's like one of the pillars of the whole system.
Roseanne has used her independent platform to say exactly that. On her podcast, she sat down with journalist Nick Bryant, who had been working to expose the Epstein files for years before the mainstream media would touch his name.
I acquired his little black book, and then I started calling victims in the black book, and they started telling me about being flown around and flown to an island. And at that point, I realized he was no longer a lone pedophile, but he ran up on that.
Together, they laid out the full structure of what was actually happening. What comes next in that conversation changes everything. Epstein wasn't just some lucky criminal who slipped through the cracks. He ran a massive operation deliberately designed to trap the most powerful people in the world, record what they did, and use that footage to control them for life. Think about how that system actually worked. You participate in something deeply wrong, and you know the cameras are rolling the entire time. From that moment on, you're owned. And here's the part that makes it even darker. Hollywood doesn't punish the people caught in that trap, it rewards them. You don't end up in a hut somewhere. You rise. You get the money, the fame, the platform. Refuse to play along, and you're finished.
There's nothing any of them could ever do to make up for what they put me through. There's nothing they could do to apologize.
So what does a friendly daytime talk show host have to do with any of this? Quite a lot, actually. Ellen became exactly the kind of face the system needed. Someone the public trusted completely. Someone who told people to be kind, stay entertained, and never ask uncomfortable questions about who was really running things behind the scenes. Former crew members also spoke out, alleging that producers created hostile and uncomfortable environments on set.
The structure of Hollywood is if there is sort of pressure to do sort of things or they have blackmail, there is a payoff. It's not like you're blackmailed and you're living in a hut. Like, you'll rise to the top, you'll have money.
Well, if you don't, you'll be finished.
The public image and the private reality were two very different things. The elites needed that kind of distraction. Warm, familiar faces on television kept people calm and looking the wrong direction, while something far worse played out behind closed doors. Roseanne Barr brought a survivor named Audrey Lynn forward to share her story. Audrey described being invited to a hotel meeting by someone who claimed to have major Hollywood connections and told her she had real potential. This was right after she appeared in Playboy as Miss October 2003. That meeting led to her alleged assault by Jeffrey Epstein himself, which she confirmed on record. Her testimony doesn't just expose one man, it pulls back the curtain on the entire power structure that made someone like Epstein possible in the first place.
And I was told that there was this great guy that was in Hollywood. He had all these connections to different producers and that he wanted to meet me and thought that I had great potential because I had just posed for Playboy. And so I went to a hotel to meet him.
Allegedly, I have to say, by the infamous Jeffrey Epstein himself, correct?
Correct. This is Satan's army. Like, literally, this is Satan's army.
A network that traces back to something far older and far more disturbing, what some call the bloodline of Cain. Before we go any further, you need to understand something that runs much deeper than Jeffrey Epstein or any single name you've heard in the headlines. The bloodline of Cain isn't a modern invention. It's a network that has controlled empires, built secret societies, and held global power for generations. Some call it Satan's army, and those who've looked closely say that label isn't far off. This network operates through underground temples and the highest seats of power on Earth. It's not a rivalry between gangs chasing votes or money. This is a war, and it's playing out right now, in plain sight.
Special occasions, contracts signed over candlelight, refrigeration units in basements stocked with whole babies marinating in special sauce, jokes about saving something rare for a premiere or an award win. You heard enough and you stopped reacting. It wasn't about appetite, it was about power, and crossing a boundary so absolute that everyone at the table became complicit. Once you shared that secret, whatever you believed you'd consumed, you were bound to the group.
The elite circle connected to Epstein had one goal: total control. They wanted access to children, and they needed the public to stay silent about all of it. Epstein was simply their modern tool. His job was to manage the ring and deliver access to the powerful. He wasn't the one who built this system. He was just one operator inside a machine that has been running for a very long time. Once you understand that, something else clicks into place.
People at Diddy parties, people on the Epstein list? Do you think that anybody would be left standing in Hollywood? Is it that endemic?
I think it goes to the royals of the world, the kings and queens. That's how they get there. Come on, it isn't just Hollywood. It's everything. It's the devil's world.
Why does the mainstream media lie so consistently? Why do certain celebrities walk away clean no matter what comes out about them? And here's where it gets personal. Roseanne figured it out. She started connecting the dots publicly, naming names, and pointing fingers at people inside Ellen's circle and beyond. She called out Bill Gates, Oprah Winfrey, Lady Gaga, Tom Hanks, and Ellen herself. She even picked up the phone and told Ellen directly,
"You better shut your blanking mouth about me. I'm telling you, you better shut your effing mouth."
The moment she went public, the response was immediate. According to those close to the situation, word spread through Hollywood fast, and the decision was simple: destroy her. She had a massive platform, and she wasn't afraid to use it. They couldn't allow that. The mainstream media went into overdrive trying to discredit everything she said. And that, right there, tells you everything you need to know. The naming of Ellen wasn't random. It was precise, deliberate, and disturbingly accurate to what this secret network actually needed. She wasn't just a talk show host cracking jokes every afternoon. She was an active participant in covering up what was really happening. She gave the elite something they desperately needed: a friendly, warm face that kept the public comfortable while Epstein's operation ran quietly in the background. And it worked. People watched her show and walked away thinking Hollywood was all dance-offs and celebrity gifts. That was exactly the point. Ellen also went after whistleblowers hard. She publicly dismissed Roseanne's statements as baseless conspiracy theories built on misinformation. But people who were paying close attention saw what was actually playing out. They noticed which friends she protected and which celebrities trying to expose her were suddenly disrespected and sidelined. That's what makes Roseanne's position so striking. She's not some outsider inventing stories. She's someone who saw the system from inside the room and understood how it operated. In 2004 and 2006, Roseanne was actually a guest on Ellen's show. And if you go back and watch those episodes, the strategy becomes obvious. By putting a known loose cannon like Roseanne on that friendly couch, Ellen was sending a message. Look, Roseanne's here, laughing along, so she must be fine. She's part of the club. She's not a real threat.
Really? You think 57 is old?
I think it's really old. I know what you're trying to get to. You know, people in Hollywood, they're always telling you, 50's the new 30. 50's not old, because they like have a horrible fear of aging and all that stuff, but nobody lives to 100.
Don't you think Brittany Murphy's a liar?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Big fat one.
That was the move. But behind all of it, Ellen was connected to the very network that enabled people like Jeffrey Epstein, Ghislaine Maxwell, and Prince Andrew. The elite needed people like her to maintain public trust at all costs. If audiences believed Hollywood was full of genuinely kind people, they'd never start asking questions about private islands, flight logs, or who was connected to whom. They'd just keep watching and keep trusting. That's exactly what Ellen was there to guarantee. For nearly 2 decades, she was the perfect distraction, and the system used her precisely for that reason. All of it collapsed in 2020 when stories about a toxic workplace started leaking out of the Ellen show. Staff members complained about poor communication, a lack of support, and behavior that felt dismissive at best.
Also were members of the crew who spoke about producers allegedly other crew members and creating uncomfortable environment.
The other allegation has to do with Ellen herself and allegations that she's not the happy-go-lucky, nice person that her show would lead people to believe in.
The woman who built her entire brand on kindness was suddenly being described as a mean boss behind the scenes. That became the official story. She was demanding, she was difficult, and she wasn't the same person off camera that she was on. It was a neat, tidy explanation, and it was completely manufactured. In 2022, the show quietly ended. Then in 2024, Ellen did a stand-up set where she joked,
"Oh yeah, I got kicked out of show business."
Everyone laughed. But here's what that punchline was actually covering up. Ellen wasn't removed for being mean. Countless people in Hollywood are notoriously difficult, and they hold on to their careers for decades because they're protected. Harvey Weinstein only fell when he ran out of people willing to shield him. Mean people don't lose their shows. People who become liabilities do. Ellen lost her platform to bury the real story. By letting the public settle on the difficult boss narrative, the people above her kept anyone from asking harder questions, specifically about her connections to Epstein's inner circle. It was a fake scandal engineered to smother a real one. She walked away with a massive payout and a clean enough reputation to do stand-up. The network protected itself, and she got a soft landing. But not everyone in this story got treated that way. Where Ellen was quietly retired, Roseanne was made an example of, and that difference tells you everything. In 2018, ABC brought back Roseanne's show for a revival season, and it exploded. The ratings were massive, the fans were loyal, and week after week, millions of people were tuning in to watch her unfiltered take on real, working-class life. That kind of platform is dangerous to certain people in power, and they knew it. So they waited. On May 29th, Roseanne posted a tweet about Valerie Jarrett, and the mainstream media pounced on it instantly.
ABC called Roseanne Barr's tweet about former President Obama aide Valerie Jarrett abhorrent, repugnant, and inconsistent with our values.
A strong condemnation from a network that had no problem protecting people far worse. Roseanne explained she'd posted under the influence of the sleep medication Ambien. She apologized publicly and asked God to help her turn the experience into something better. None of it mattered. ABC Entertainment President Channing Dungey pushed the decision, and the show was canceled immediately. Then her own co-stars turned on her. Sarah Gilbert publicly distanced herself, and Roseanne didn't forget it. As she later put it, to twist the knife further, her character was written out entirely.
I think I'm better off too, but like I was going to say, Sarah Gilbert was on that show, The Talk, and it wasn't enough that she stabbed me in the back and did what she did to me there, but...
And the rest of the cast carried on with a spin-off called The Conners. They took her show, her character, her legacy, and her reputation in one clean sweep. But here's the part that doesn't add up. People say far worse things online every single day and face zero consequences. The speed of this cancellation wasn't about a tweet at all. Roseanne had been speaking out, pointing fingers, making noise. She was a whistleblower. And that tweet was simply the excuse they needed to silence her for good. They even tried to spin it as something she secretly wanted, painting her as unstable. But Roseanne wasn't confused about what happened to her. On Candace Owens' podcast, she laid it bare. That comparison wasn't an accident. And it wasn't the rambling of someone who'd lost the plot. So what exactly was Roseanne trying to tell the world before they cut her off? Roseanne didn't just observe Hollywood from the outside. She'd spent decades working inside it, and that's exactly what made her dangerous. When you understand a system from the inside, when you can see how it actually operates, you stop being an asset and start being a liability. She also saw the Me Too movement for what it really was, at least in part. Firing a handful of lower-level players doesn't fix a corrupt structure. It just gives the public the feeling that justice is happening. The Epstein-style network at the top, that was never touched. The movement was allowed to take down some names. It was allowed to make people feel like the system was cleaning itself up. But it never got anywhere near the core of the operation, and Roseanne said so out loud. Here's where the plot twist lands. When elite insiders make mistakes, the system gives them a path back. Lena Dunham published a full apology in The Hollywood Reporter after lying to discredit a woman named Aurora Pereno, and she was welcomed back. When Roseanne apologized after her tweet, the system didn't even flinch. No path back. No second chance. That's not a coincidence. The system only accepts apologies from people willing to fall back in line. Roseanne wasn't willing to do that, and everyone knew it. Her cancellation had to be total and permanent. And yet she's still talking, still connecting the dots between Ellen, the Epstein network, and the machinery that keeps it all hidden. The same people preaching kindness on daytime television may be the ones protecting the darkest operation in the industry. That's the layer most people never get to see. The double standard couldn't be more obvious. Protected names keep their wealth and their platforms, while the people willing to speak up get pushed out into the cold. But the connection is out there now. The silence is broken, and the world is paying attention. Nothing buries that kind of truth once it's loose. What do you think about Roseanne speaking out on Ellen's alleged ties to the Epstein network? Drop your thoughts in the comments and subscribe for more stories like this one. See you in the next one.